Bring out the brooms, baby, because the Marlins just got their first sweep of the season.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Marlins. I'm your host, Jeremiah Geiger. You can hit me up on X at Jeremiah Geiger 2. I've been podcasting about the Marlins for 4 seasons, and this is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Hit that subscribe button. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. And it's a Monday episode, so of course, Loud Miami fan is in the house. Welcome in.
How does it look? Does the screen look clean here? I mean,
Yeah.
Marlins swept, so I'm sweeping. Let's get louder. It is Monday. Happy Monday, everybody. And it is a very happy day.
The Marlins get their first sweep of the season. We're going to break that whole series down against the Nationals. Talk about Dane Myers because, man, he is hitting the cover off the ball. Sandy has a big test today on Monday against the Fighting Phils of Philadelphia. And then we're going to talk about the Rafael Devers trade. I think there's some takeaways that apply to the Marlins. That's all coming up later. Let's talk about this series, though, because on Friday's show, LMF, I specifically titled it that the Marlins need momentum. They need something. They have to win a series. It had been 5 in a row. I was tired of the losing. I was sick of it. And they went out into our nation's capital and took care of business, winning 3 in a row. It was awesome from start to finish.
It was great. And baseball's a funny sport, right? All last season, the Nationals whooped Marlins butt all over both stadiums, either in D.C. or down here in Miami. They're better this year than they were last year, that being the Nationals. Marlins, you could say, took a step back if you want. I don't think we're better than last year on paper, right? We're younger. Doesn't mean we're better. But baseball's funny because if you looked at this series on paper, they're pitching, especially for Sunday's matchup, even though Yuri is getting better and he's only been back now 2 games. They had their best pitcher on the mound, and that's twice this season that we've beat him. So the Marlins, what's his name? Gore, I believe, or something.
Yeah, Mackenzie Gore.
Mackenzie Gore. Marlins kicked his butt, and it started off hot, and it was a fun series. You had the rain out, I believe, Friday night that put a huge delay. So it turned into a double win Saturday in a way, an early morning and then an afternoon win. And then coming to Sunday, you hope Yuri could do well, and he did okay, right? He's in growth mode, and if you remember how young Jose Fernandez was, may he rest in peace, how he was when he came back from Tommy John at his age, it's different than Sandy. You got a veteran versus a youth, and they're going to be very careful with him, and I'm happy he went 4 innings. But you know what? Who cares how we got there? It's a sweep.
It's a sweep. It's a sweep, baby. That's all that matters. Yuri Perez went 4 innings, didn't strike out anybody. He only gave up 1 earned run, 4 hits, and 3 walks. I think the main issue with Yuri is just commanding his secondaries. The velocity's there. It's back up to what it used to be. But now, like we saw with Sandy, it's honing it in, especially with a pitcher that young, just commanding, the control of the slider and his off-speed pitches to where, he can pound the zone and be effective. And it's just a matter of time. It's just progress. It's not, Rome wasn't built in one day. Yuri Perez isn't going to come out firing on all cylinders at just 22 years old. That's unfair. That's unfair to have those expectations of him. But you see the glimpses, you see the potential there, and he's got the rest of the season to figure it out. The Marlins are going to be patient. They're going to continue to work with him. I really have zero concern with Yuri Perez as a star pitcher. People can look at the numbers and say, oh, he's just, what happened? Like the casual fan. No, it's been 2 starts, guys. Nobody worry at all. Friday's game, that was the Edward Cabrera start. It was that rain delay. I don't think the game ended till about 1 in the morning. I woke up the next day and I saw the final score. Saturday, I think that was the bullpen game. And Jansen Junk was absolutely dominant in that game out of the pen, middle relief over 5 innings. I believe 5 2/3, scoreless, only a couple hits. The pitching for the Marlins was really effective in this series. And you mentioned they got to Mackenzie Gore. That's what I really like to see. Early and often, they were on attack mode. Dane Myers, we got to talk about the great Dane because he had a big home run against Gore on Sunday. Myers is somebody that is just playing himself into, I have to play every day. There's no excuse not to play Dane at all. There's just none.
None. And my fear is he's not only playing himself into an everyday role, which he should have had to begin with, but now he's playing himself into trade talks. Good for him. He could be our all-star. That may be an episode down the road, but he's playing like one, right? Whether it's his defense or his offense, his production, especially this series. But, I've known this for Dane. I broke his story about him coming back last week or a week and a half ago. I'm close with him. And this is the guy that I know who he could be. And let the game come.
Oh, I think we lost LMF for a second here. But to talk about Dane for a little bit as we wait for Loud Miami Fan to get back, Dane Myers this season, he's hitting .320, OPS of 814, slugging .448. I mean, he is a hitter. He knows how to hit. And the Marlins are going to take that 10 times out of 10. For somebody that was a former Rule 5 draft pick, Dane Myers has been a real great find, much like Liam Hicks, kind of that unheralded prospect who kind of comes out of nowhere and then makes an impact on the major league club. I know LMF was talking about, the potential of Dane Myers getting traded. And I don't know necessarily how serious the trade talks are going to be, given that he only has this year of consistent track record. There we go. LMF is back. I was talking about the Dane Myers trade. He doesn't have that consistent track record of playing time. I don't know if the Marlins are going to potentially move him or how serious the trade talks will be, because you still have him for multiple years. I think it would be more beneficial for Miami to let this season play out, and then you have next season, and maybe he's a deadline target then, because he's only had parts of 2 seasons in the Marlins organization apart from this one. He was injured last year and then his rookie year. So I would be actually pretty surprised if they dealt him at the deadline. But we've seen some surprising things happen with this team.
100%. And my apologies there. The baseball gods are saying to me and to you that they don't want me mentioning him being traded. So that is what it is. But, he's been doing so well. Have that relationship with them. I told him that if you play and do your game, let the game come to you. You saw the frustrations when he came back in that first series, in his face almost at every swing and every at-bat. And I spoke with him a little bit after, told him how I felt and whatnot. And I hope he took it to heart. It looked like he did because he improved after. Not saying I'm a guru or anything. No, all in all, there's another outfielder who should be traded because of the contract. And that, of course, is Jesus Sanchez. Not as many years, a lot higher. But if they need a sweetener, if a team is looking for potential and a sweetener, that's somebody who you might have to throw in. One of our followers who listens to this show, his name's Nathan, he threw in that it looks like it could be an add-on, or he could be potentially added on to a Cabrera, Sandy type deal. But you know what? We're far away from that. I'm proud of the guy. His on-base percentage is great. His slugging percentage, he hit a monster dong on Sunday. And, it's very nice to see, and I'm happy to have him on my fantasy baseball team.
Oh, yeah. You got to love the fantasy baseball. Fantasy baseball, this is my first year playing it. It's been really fun. I'm actually 11-0, about to be 12-0. So some dominance from Jeremiah here. But Sandy Alcantara, he's got a really big test this week. He's got the Philadelphia Phillies for his first start, and then he's got the Braves this weekend, which those are two of the best lineups in the National League. So it's showtime. It's showtime for Sandy. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about what he has to continue to do in order to be effective and what this means for the Marlins right after this. And we got a new friend here, OpenPhone. If you're running a business, you know that every missed call is money left on the table. Think about the last time you had a service emergency, like a burst pipe. If the first plumber didn't answer, did you wait? Nope, you called the next one. And that's why having a reliable business line is so important. And that's why you need OpenPhone. OpenPhone is the #1 business phone system that helps you streamline and scale customer communication, all from an app on your phone or computer. You know, when it comes to businesses, small businesses, sometimes you have your work phone and then you have your personal phone. And when those two kind of intermingle, you don't know where you placed one, you don't know where you placed the other, you're taking calls left and right, it can get confusing, it can get hectic, and that's why OpenPhone solved that instantly. And after hours, when you're hanging out with your friends or family, watching the Marlins play some baseball, the AI agent handles the after hours calls, answers those common questions, so you'll never have to miss a customer again. OpenPhone is offering Locked On Marlins listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/lockedonmlb. That's openphone.com/lockedonmlb. And if you have existing numbers with another service, OpenPhone will port them over at no extra charge. OpenPhone, no missed calls, no missed customers. If you're an everyday listener to Locked On Marlins, I appreciate you for being part of the Locked On Marlins crew. This is your first time. Do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. It helps me out a lot. And Sandy Alcantara gets the ball on Monday, back home, back at Lone Depot, Sandy's Beach. What are you looking for, LMF? Because for me, heading into this one, this is the show me time. This is make it or break it for Sandy Alcantara. He had a good start against the Rockies. He had a really good start against the Pirates. With all due respect to those teams, they don't hold a candle to the Phillies and Braves.
Yeah, you got the Phillies coming in first. Phillies are a great team. I don't want to downplay them. We may not like them. There may be some grudge match between fans and whatnot. They're a good team, and that lineup is stacked. And Sandy has shown that when he gets in a little bit of controversy, when there's runners on, he's letting everybody steal on him, first off.
Yeah.
But that's beyond. Once players get on base, he struggles. And he did well. I heard he had a 3-hitter versus the Pirates. I was in the middle of the ocean, so I didn't watch any of the games, unfortunately, but I heard he did great. We saw how he did against the Rockies, which we expected. And now he goes against one of the best lineups in baseball. So, yeah, it's proved to the league, proved to himself that he can still be elite versus the elite teams. And this is his first shot. Going to the Braves, they have their own struggles. Sometimes they don't hit at all. But I expect a win and 2 quality starts over the next 2 games. And that's the expectation I'm setting for him. 6 innings, with leaving with a tie or the lead.
Yeah, I just want to see progression. I don't want to see regression back to where he was, 4 or 5 starts ago. That is not what you want. You don't want that if you're the Marlins, because if Sandy has a good week and he does have 2 quality starts, and now you're looking at he's starting to string them together, and now he's made that jump in competition. Now we're looking for the last 4 starts. Sandy's pitched really well. We're in the end of June. The trade rumors are starting to circulate. His value is going to be continuing to grow. I know we've talked about this on the show. This is always a focal point and a topic of discussion because it's so huge for the Marlins organization. But if Sandy continues to pitch well, I think he ends up getting traded. I know I flip-flopped and said, look, if he continues to pitch this way, there's no way they can deal him. But hey, if he gets on a roll, I think the Marlins flip him. Has your stance changed at all Or are you still of the opinion, look, no matter how well he pitches until the deadline, I want to hold him till the offseason?
The Marlins want to get rid of the $17.3 million. If this was his salary from last season at 9.5, the season he missed, or the season before in the sixes, they would not be trading him and they'd still hold him. But they want that money off the books. That's not to say that they will not hold him till the offseason, because his value is still down. And there was an article in The Athletic this week or last week that talked about this. And Sandy, they said everyone who they're hearing, the other GMs are saying they don't mind holding on to Sandy because he's in their budget for this season. So I do expect him to be dealt, because I expect him to pitch better over the next 4 or 5 starts. Do I want it to happen? No, we love Sandy. And now that him and Yuri and Kyle spoke to this on FanDuel Sports Network during the broadcast today, he said, it's nice to see Yuri pitch one day, and the day after you have Sandy, and the open competition, which you and I discussed last week, how they're going to push each other to be better. And we've already seen it in the last 2 starts, each of them getting better over the last 2 starts. So it's good for both to have him on this team.
I don't think it's necessarily just the salary, though. I think the main driving force to trade Sandy, because ultimately, yeah, Bruce Sherman doesn't want to spend. This team is very frugal, or you could say cheap, when it comes to just spending money. It is what it is. But they are in a rebuild. They need to continue to inject talent into the system. And when you look at the players on the Marlins roster, who can you get value for? Jesus Sanchez, you can get a couple intriguing pieces. Nothing crazy. Ryan Weathers was mentioned as being traded. That's not going to happen. He's injured. It's just not reliable. The bullpen is what it is. You're never going to get crazy prospects for a bullpen piece unless it's like an elite closer last year, like Tanner Scott. But the Marlins don't have that this season. So Sandy really is the only remaining piece in 2025 and probably 2026 that could command a huge haul, which is why it's so important for them to eventually deal him. I know it's uncomfortable as a fan and as somebody that watches Sandy every 5th day religiously. We don't want to see him pitch in another team's uniform. But this is Marlins baseball. This is Bendix ball. And we have to adjust. And I think most of the fan base has. I think deep down we're all prepared for the inevitable, I'm going to call it, because inevitably he will be traded. It's a matter of when. And as we see with across the league, even dating back to last year, Luis Arias got traded on May 4th. I was sitting in a Waffle House and I got a notification, Luis Arias traded to Padres. And I said, what? I opened my phone. I'm like, there's no way this is true. And it was. Rafael Devers, we're going to talk about him in the next segment, traded the middle of the day. I thought it was a prank. I thought it was a fake account. No, It's real. These trades are happening, and this could be an absolute wild trade deadline.
I mean, we'll talk about this next segment, but the Giants traded away tonight's starter 10 minutes before the game.
Yeah.
So, yes, it's going to be a crazy deadline. We will be part of it, but due to the way other teams have been playing, good teams from the last couple of years are not playing as well. There's going to be a little bit more selling, I feel, than there has been in the past. More sellers than buyers, and there's going to be a lot of talent on the trade market.
Let's talk about that Rafael Devers trade and the impact that it has on baseball, but also the Marlins. There's a couple takeaways that I'm gonna talk to you about. That's coming up right after this. And this episode is brought to you by Supply House. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Guys, they got a really easy-to-use website. There's no confusion when it comes to the website. You can go on there, research their inventory. They got a huge inventory. over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands. So you're going to find exactly what you're looking for. And if you need help when you order, Supply House has expert support, industry-leading service. You'll always talk to a real person. You're not going to have to talk to a robot or be on the line for 30 minutes with the annoying music, in your ear. If you're one of those professionals, or somebody, one of your friends, a family member is a trade professional, they want that extra edge, Supply House offers a free Trade Master program with exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage, so now it's your turn. If you're interested in this, join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and go ahead, start ordering your plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. And also use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. A reminder that Locked On Marlins isn't just on the YouTube channel, although if you're watching, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you're subscribed. It's also on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, all the streaming platforms, so you can listen on the go. And we had a major blockbuster trade in baseball. Rafael Devers, keep butchering his name for some reason, gets traded to the Giants. The superstar third baseman for the Red Sox, with 8 years left on his contract, gets flipped to San Francisco for what I would call a very underwhelming return. And then, of course, the news comes out. The Red Sox aren't paying a dime of his salary. The Giants took on the full remaining $250 million contract. It feels a lot like Giancarlo Stanton's deal back in 2017 in the winter when Miami dealt him to the Yankees. That was my kind of gut reaction to it. What this means for baseball, the competitors are starting to set themselves apart. That is the first domino to fall in. We're pushing our chips on the table. We believe in ourselves. We want to win a World Series. That is the statement the Giants made. And for the Red Sox, it's another testament to not committing long-term to their superstars. And you look at Mookie Betts, you look at Chris Sale, you look at now Rafael Devers, all of them not on the Red Sox anymore. And it's definitely a new wave of a new era in Boston.
Yep, and you're missing Xavier Bogaerts.
No, that's right. That's right.
Too. It's a little different because they didn't commit to Mookie. They traded him. They did not commit to Bogaerts. They let him walk, and as a free agent, they offered him a deal. He chose to sign with the Padres, a little bit more money. And they did commit to Devers, and that was 2023. I think that the signing of Bregman in the offseason really ruined that relationship, both from a coaching standpoint, because Cora had a relationship with Bregman from the Astros. So you thought that Cora and Devers had a good relationship. That kind of broke a little bit because of Bregman's signing. From a baseball standpoint, you look at what went down in the offseason, where they basically said, look, you're going to be DH. We're paying you. You have nothing. You're great at fielding, but you know what? Be our DH. Have fun, relax. That takes a little bit of learning to do when you're used to fielding, used to being in the game. Your adrenaline, you have to learn to control it a little differently coming off the bench to just DH. And then I think when Casas went down at first base, the real tear happened because they asked him to play first base. The Red Sox did. And he said, no, you told me I'm your DH. And he said this to the media. It wasn't behind closed doors.
Right.
He said this to the media. I said, why would I do that? You told me I'm DH. I'm DH. So there was a huge break in relationship. Now, the Red Sox did commit to him. And baseball, money's guaranteed. So he's going to get paid no matter who he plays for. The Giants, I don't think this was a good trade for them. Not that they gave up so much. They got a star back. But that's
superstar.
superstar. That division's a pretty freaking good division. I don't think this makes them better than the Dodgers. I don't think this makes them better or even on the Padres level.
I do think it gives them a chance to compete, though. And
Yeah.
that, to me, is like the Dodgers and Giants right now are neck and neck in the standings. Padres are right there. I expect all those teams to be either in the playoffs or right in the thick of it till the very end. This is the Giants saying, all right, we're swinging for the fences. We know the Dodgers are great on paper, but we need to do something, and they get a superstar. What I think it means for the Marlins, though, and this is what I was thinking about, I wanted to tie this together. The Red Sox extended Devers. He was their guy, long-term. 10-year deal. I mean, signed through 2034. There was no scenario, if you told me this last year, in which the Red Sox and Rafael Devers are not joined together. And all of a sudden, they're not. And he's gone. They don't have to pay any of the salary. The Marlins, when it comes to extending players, who's to say you extend Agustin Ramirez, Yuri Perez, and then 2 years later, you say, no, we're going to flip you. We want to back out of the money. It's not working. This isn't the direction we want our franchise to go. We talk about small market teams, big market teams. Let me emphasize this. The Red Sox are in a major market. They are a big market team, and they're operating right now like a small market team. The Marlins are a small market team, and they operate such as one. They are not going to look at this and say, well, if the Red Sox are just not going to commit to long-term contracts, why the heck should we? Because ultimately, if they do, they get traded. The Guardians do the same thing. Andres Jimenez, contract. I think it was like 7 years. It was a big deal. Flipped to the Blue Jays a couple years later. Like, they do this a lot, these teams. And for the Marlins, I don't want it to be the case because I want them to make an extension and stick with it. No more Stantons, no more Yelich's because they extended Yelich, 7-year, $49 million deal. They've extended Sandy, and I'm going to say Sandy has been part of this team for so long, I don't really consider them backing out of the deal. It is what it is. They're in a rebuild. He doesn't have a place here long term. The Marlins will be better when they trade Sandy Alcantara. Their future will be better. I don't know. I just think it's tough.
That's the major difference between the Stanton trade, Yelich trades, versus this trade. Is it's not an ownership. It's not a salary dump. It's not, we just sold the team. We have an owner. We're going to rebuild. Red Sox are competing. They just, as of yesterday, Sunday, they swept the Yankees. They're competing for that division. They're competing.
But they're underperforming.
They're competing for a wild card spot.
Okay, yeah.
It's a little bit different than the Marlins giving Stanton, who went to Derek Jeter and said, "I just bring in pitching. That's all we need is pitching. The guys will take less money. We've agreed. Just less. We need pitching." And Jeter said no. Basically, it wasn't Sherman. It was Jeter who was controlling the team at the time and hold Project Wolverine. This really does affect the Marlins because we have to see what we can get back now. I do want superstars. I want Augustin, if he continues to go to do what he's doing. I want him extended. We discussed who I see as a long-term piece. He's a long-term piece. You have to get that done. Doesn't have to be 11 years. He's young enough, yes. How about give me an 8 years? Give me a 7 years. Something that says I can buy his jersey and he will not be traded. The one thing these players need to, and maybe they'll work it out in the new CBA when there's a lockout or a strike, is more no trade clauses, because that is in effect here as well. If he had a no trades clause, he'd possibly still be a Red Sox.
I think that, honestly, I think if he had a no trade clause, he would have waived it because of the relationship that he started to have with the Red Sox. But like you said Agustin Ramirez, like a seven-year deal. Let's just go 7. in your heart of hearts, do you really think, given the track record of Bruce Sherman, given the track record of the Marlins organization, he finishes that contract extension? Because I don't. I can't see it happening. If the Red Sox can't do it, the Marlins are certainly not going to.
I don't think that Bruce Sherman's ownership group will own the Marlins in 7 years. So, yes, I would expect someone else to hopefully come in here and keep the commitment to him being here, and fans giving the new owner that chance to do so and not say it's the same old stuff. John Henry's went backwards. Like, we're not a Red Sox, locked on Red Sox here, and shout out to those guys who host that. And I'd love to hear their show on Monday and what they have to say. But John Henry, man, his ownership group has taken a big turn from wanting to spend and win to run, really just make money and run the team like a small market. And it's crazy that baseball allows that.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good for the game when you have, as to wrap up this conversation, ownership that is invested solely for the purpose of financial gain. You know, that's not good. I want to see teams that want to win. I want to see owners that want to win. As much as I don't like the Mets, Steve Cohen's a Mets fan. He lives and breathes the New York Mets, and he has the resources to back it up. Something like this would never happen under Steve Cohen. And New York and Boston are huge markets. I mean, New York's the biggest, of course. Don't get me wrong, but it's the Red Sox. I mean, it's a national brand.
Yeah, I mean, you could say that the Mets pulled away in 2024 when they made some trades at the deadline in 2023, trading the pitchers who they committed 3 years to. Verlander and Scherzer, they had committed to them, and they traded them because he saw he wasn't winning with them. It's a little different. No relation.
Yeah.
You heard about the relationships back then and what Scherzer had to say. Yeah, he basically said, I'm trading you because I know we're not going to win. But I'm going to bring you to a contender. And I think Scherzer ended up in the World Series or winning the World Series that year. I forget. Or Verlander did.
I think Scherzer went to Texas.
Yeah.
Scherzer won it all.
Scherzer went to Texas, won it all. Verlander went to the Astros. And I think, did they lose to the Braves that year? Doesn't matter. I'm mixing up years. Doesn't matter. They both went to competing teams and probably had, at least for Scherzer, his last best year. Regardless, again, you and I are both on the same page where we want players to stay in Miami. We want to be able to have kids buy player uniforms and get attached. And this is not good for baseball when markets that can afford their players give up those players with 8 years left on a $313 million deal, which no one expected them to sign them to that, which is the craziest, right? All the talks was after Bogarts left, after Mookie left, is they're not going to. And they did. And now you see the repercussions are going to hit, especially with that new CBA next year.
Yep. No, it's just a interesting time where we are right now in the sport of baseball. But for the Marlins, a lot to look forward to this week. Of course, guys, remember, watch Sandy Alcantara, his 2 starts. You got a really good team. Phillies in town. Go out to the ballpark if you can. Go cheer on the Miami Marlins and then the Braves. That's another big one.
We know weekday games are hard to get to because of where the stadium is. You saw that for your first time earlier this year. The Braves series is going to be fun. You get a nice restaurant down here in South Florida is doing a night in a Jersey on Saturday. Sunday, it's Billy's birthday. Come out and celebrate that. You get a free shirt. Let's go celebrate this team who just swept the Nationals and made our Monday great.
That's going to do it for today's edition of Locked On Marlins, guys. As always, I appreciate you for listening. And until next time, stay safe, stay locked on, and let's go fish.